Welcome to History Before Bed, where we bring you calming historical stories perfect for bedtime. I started this channel because I struggled with insomnia, and while audiobooks helped, they were often too exciting to help me sleep. So, I created these stories to be engaging enough to hold your attention, but soothing enough to lull you to sleep. If you enjoy our bedtime history tales, please like and subscribe before you drift off so you never miss an episode. Now, get comfortable, relax, and let the gentle rhythms of history guide you to sleep.
Chapter 1: Long Beach Beginnings. In the heart of Long Beach, California, during the sun-drenched days of the 1970s, a young boy was born who would later shape the cultural landscape of hip-hop. Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr. entered the world on October 20th, 1971, to parents Vernal and Beverly Broadus. Long Beach, a city nestled along the Pacific coast, was a place where palm trees swayed in the breeze, yet beneath its serene exterior, it harbored neighborhoods that were marked by hardship and strife. Calvin's early life was a reflection of the dichotomies that defined Long Beach. His father, Vernal, was mostly absent, leaving the bulk of the child rearing to his mother, Beverly, a resilient woman who worked tirelessly to provide for her family. Beverly was a pillar of strength, a woman of faith who tried to instill in Calvin a sense of morality and purpose despite the challenges surrounding them. Calvin's household was filled with the sound of gospel music, the soulful tunes that emanated from his mother's record player, becoming the backdrop to his formative years. Music, in many ways, was Calvin's first love. The gospel hymns he heard at home were a source of comfort, while the rhythm and blues that played on the streets offered a different kind of allure. Beverly, noticing her son's natural affinity for music, encouraged him to join the church choir. It was here, within the walls of the local Baptist church, that Calvin first found his voice. Singing in the choir allowed him to connect with something greater than himself, a spiritual bond that briefly shielded him from the harsh realities of life outside. However, the streets of Long Beach had their own siren call. The 1970s in California were a time of social upheaval, and the neighborhoods around Calvin were no strangers to gang violence. As Calvin grew older, the influence of the church began to wane, and the allure of the streets grew stronger. By his teenage years, the neighborhood's undercurrents pulled him into a world where gang culture reigned supreme. He became involved with the Rollin' 20s Crips, a notorious gang that was entrenched in the fabric of Long Beach. Calvin's involvement in gang life was as much about survival as it was about belonging. The camaraderie and protection offered by the gang were hard to resist for a young man seeking his identity in a world that often seemed stacked against him. Yet, this life came with its own set of consequences. Calvin's brushes with the law began to accumulate, minor infractions at first, escalating to more serious encounters. The police became a familiar presence in his life, a constant reminder of the path he was treading. Despite the turbulence of his surroundings, Calvin never completely let go of music. It remained a sanctuary, a way to escape the grim realities of his environment. Even as he navigated the complexities of gang life, there were moments when he would retreat into his world of sound, creating melodies and rhythms in his head that spoke of both his struggles and aspirations. Long Beach was a city of contrasts, a place where dreams could be both nurtured and shattered. For Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr., these early years were a time of duality. The son of a devoted mother and an absent father, a choir boy who became entangled in gang culture, He was a young man standing at the crossroads of a destiny that would eventually take him far beyond the streets of Long Beach. Yet, it was these very streets that shaped him, laying the foundation for the artist the world would later know as Snoop Dogg. Chapter 2: From Crips to Rhymes. The streets of Long Beach were unforgiving, and for Calvin Broadus Jr., the lure of the Rollin' Twenties Crips gang was too strong to resist. His teenage years were marked by a growing involvement with the gang, a step that seemed almost inevitable in the neighborhood he called home. The gang provided a sense of identity, a brotherhood that filled the void left by an absent father and the pressures of a challenging environment. Calvin, who had once found solace in the hymns of the church choir, was now navigating a world where survival meant aligning oneself with the most powerful force on the streets. As he sank deeper into gang life, Calvin began to discover another form of expression: rapping. The rough-and-tumble world of the streets had given him stories to tell, and the burgeoning West Coast rap scene offered the perfect outlet. Influenced by the slick, narrative style of Slick Rick, the gritty realism of Ice-T, and the raw, unapologetic verses of 2 Hort, Calvin started to craft his own rhymes. The transition from street life to the world of rap was not immediate, but rather a gradual process, fueled by a desire to articulate his experiences and frustrations. Rapping was more than just a pastime. It was a way for Calvin to assert his identity in a world that constantly tried to define him. His early attempts at rhyming were raw and unpolished, yet there was something undeniably magnetic about his delivery. His voice, deep and laid back, set him apart from other aspiring rappers in Long Beach. His flow was smooth, almost conversational, drawing listeners in with its effortless cadence. It was during these formative years that Calvin linked up with 2 childhood friends, Warren Griffin III, known as Warren G., and Nathaniel Hale, who would become Nate Dogg. Together, they formed a rap group called 2113, named after the Long Beach area code. The trio shared a deep bond, rooted in their shared experiences and love for music. Warren G., a DJ with a keen ear for beats, provided the group with the soundscapes they needed, while Nate Dogg's melodic hooks added a soulful touch to their tracks. 213 began recording demos, laying down tracks wherever they could find the time and space. These early recordings were far from the polished productions that would later define West Coast rap, but they were filled with raw energy and the unfiltered realities of their lives. Calvin, who by now had adopted the moniker Snoop Doggy Dogg, began to hone his style, developing the distinctive drawl and laid-back delivery that would soon become his trademark. Despite the promise shown by 213, Snoop's life was still deeply entwined with the gang culture of Long Beach. The duality of his existence, rapper by day, gang member by night, eventually led to his arrest. It wasn't his first brush with the law, but it was a turning point. The reality of facing jail time forced Snoop to confront the direction his life was heading. In the confines of a cell, Snoop had time to reflect. Music, which had always been a refuge, now seemed like a potential escape, a way to leave behind the violence and uncertainty of gang life for something more enduring. It was during this period of incarceration that Snoop made a pivotal decision. He realized that rapping was not just a hobby, but a lifeline. If he was going to survive, he needed to fully commit to his music. The words he had once used to navigate the treacherous streets of Long Beach now became the foundation of his future. Upon his release, Snoop returned to the studio with a renewed sense of purpose. The music he made from that point on was infused with the urgency of a man who knew that his time to make a mark was running out. The next chapter in Snoop's life was about to unfold, a chapter that would see him rise from the streets of Long Beach to the heights of hip-hop stardom. But in the quiet moments, as he crafted his rhymes and shaped his sound, Snoop remained deeply aware of where he came from and how close he had come to losing it all. The streets had shaped him, but it was the music that would define him. Chapter 3: Discovery by Dr. In the early 1990s, the West Coast rap scene was a boiling cauldron of creativity, innovation, and rivalry. Amidst this, a pivotal moment occurred that would not only change the trajectory of Calvin Broadus Jr.'s life, but would also leave an indelible mark on the genre of hip-hop itself. It all began with a simple cassette tape, handed from one friend to another, a tape that would ultimately bring together two of the most influential figures in the history of rap. Warren G., ever the DJ and producer, had been keeping an eye on his friend Snoop Dogg. He knew Snoop had something special, a voice and style unlike anyone else. So when Warren G. found himself in the studio with his stepbrother, Andre Young, better known as Dr. Dre, he seized the opportunity. Dr. Dre, already a legendary figure thanks to his work with NWA, was in the process of carving out a new path as a solo artist and producer. The moment Warren G. played that tape for Dre, the course of hip-hop changed forever. Dre was immediately struck by Snoop's smooth, unhurried flow, his ability to paint vivid pictures with his words, and the unique quality of his voice, deep yet melodic, with a laid-back swagger that seemed to flow effortlessly over any beat. Recognizing the potential in Snoop, Dre wasted no time. He invited the young rapper to join him in the studio, and together they began working on what would become one of the most influential albums in rap history, The Chronic. Released in 1992, The Chronic was a seismic event in the music world, a defining moment that introduced the sound of G-Funk to a mainstream audience. Snoop's fingerprints were all over the album, his presence felt on some of its most iconic tracks. On songs like Nothin' But a G-Thang and Let Me Ride, Snoop's laid-back yet commanding delivery provided the perfect complement to Dre's production, an intoxicating blend of funk samples, heavy bass lines, and smooth, rolling grooves. Snoop's verses were not just raps, they were narratives, stories told with a casual ease that belied their complexity. The impact of The Chronic on Snoop's career was immediate and profound. Practically overnight, Snoop went from being an underground talent to a household name. His voice, his style, and even his image, the lanky figure, with braids hanging low and a casual coolness that seemed to come as naturally as breathing, became emblematic of the new wave of West Coast rap. The public reception was overwhelmingly positive. Snoop was hailed as a fresh, original voice, a new storyteller whose tales of street life resonated with a wide audience. But with fame came its own set of challenges. The same year The Chronic catapulted him to stardom, Snoop found himself entangled in legal troubles that threatened to derail his burgeoning career. He was charged with being an accessory to murder in connection with a gang-related shooting. The media frenzy that followed was intense, with Snoop's image splashed across headlines, not just as a rising star, but as a symbol of the controversial and often misunderstood world of gangsta rap. The scrutiny was relentless, and Snoop found himself caught between two worlds: the glitzy, fast-paced world of fame and the gritty, dangerous world of the streets he had only just begun to leave behind. It was a precarious balancing act, one that tested his resolve and forced him to confront the realities of his newfound fame. Yet, through it all, Snoop remained focused on his music. The legal battles and media attention only served to heighten his resolve to succeed, to prove that his talent was no fluke. As Snoop prepared to launch his solo career, the lessons learned during those early days with Dr. Dre would prove invaluable. The Chronic had not only introduced him to the world, but it had also given him a glimpse of the heights he could reach. But it had also shown him the pitfalls of fame, a world where every move was scrutinized and every mistake amplified. In the studio, though, all of that melted away. There, Snoop was in his element, crafting rhymes, laying down tracks, and continuing to evolve his sound. The journey from a gang-affiliated teenager to one of hip-hop's most promising voices had been anything but easy. But Snoop knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The world was watching, and he was ready to show them what he could do. Chapter 4: Doggy Style Success. By the time Snoop Dogg's debut album, Doggy Style, hit the shelves in November 1993, the anticipation was palpable. The success of The Chronic had already established Snoop as a rising star, and now the world was eager to see if he could deliver on his own. The album, released under Death Row Records, did not disappoint. It was a defining moment in hip-hop, a record that would cement Snoop's place in the pantheon of rap legends. The production of Doggy Style was a meticulous process, overseen by Dr. Dre, whose influence was evident in every beat, bass line, and groove. Dre's mastery of G-Funk, a subgenre that fused 1970s funk with modern rap, provided the perfect backdrop for Snoop's smooth, languid delivery. The album was a seamless blend of thumping bass, melodic synths, and crisp snares, all wrapped around Snoop's distinctive flow. Tracks like Gin and Juice and Who Am I? What's My Name? Became instant classics, their hooks infectious and their lyrics anthems for a generation. Doggy Style was more than just a collection of songs. It was a cultural statement. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling over 800,000 copies in its first week, a record-breaking achievement for a debut album at the time. Critics praised Snoop's effortless storytelling, his ability to conjure vivid scenes of West Coast life with a few well-chosen words. His laid-back style, combined with Dre's production, created a sound that was both innovative and instantly recognizable. But the album's success was not without controversy. Snoop's lyrics, often depicting the harsh realities of street life, drew criticism for their explicit content and perceived glorification of violence and misogyny. Songs like Murder Was the Case blurred the lines between fiction and reality, with Snoop narrating a tale of crime and redemption that felt all too close to his own experiences. The media latched onto these narratives, casting Snoop as both a genius of the genre and a lightning rod for its most controversial elements. This scrutiny was only heightened by the ongoing legal battle Snoop faced at the time. He was still embroiled in a murder trial, accused of being an accessory to a fatal shooting that had occurred in August 1993. The trial was a media spectacle, with every development closely followed by the public. Snoop's music and his public persona became inextricably linked to the legal drama, adding layers of complexity to his already controversial image. Despite the challenges, Doggy Style continued to dominate the charts, and Snoop's star continued to rise. The album's cultural impact was profound, influencing not just the sound of hip-hop, but also fashion, language, and even attitudes toward the genre itself. Snoop's style, both in music and in his public persona, became emblematic of West Coast rap, a movement that would shape the direction of hip-hop for years to come. As the dust settled from the album's release and the trial drew to a close, Snoop emerged as a survivor of the harsh glare of fame. He had not only proven himself as a formidable artist, but had also navigated the treacherous waters of legal and public scrutiny. Doggy Style was more than just a debut album. It was a declaration of Snoop Dogg's arrival as a major force in music, a force that was here to stay. The success of Doggy Style set the stage for Snoop's future endeavors, but it also served as a reminder of the complexities that came with fame. For every accolade, there was a challenge, and for every hit, there was a critique. Yet, through it all, Snoop remained true to himself, his music, and his vision, a vision that had now been shared with millions around the world. Chapter 5: Trials and Tribulations. As Snoop Dogg's star ascended in the early 1990s, so too did the weight of the world on his shoulders. The success of Doggy Style had catapulted him into the spotlight, but with fame came a series of challenges that would test his resolve like never before. At the center of these challenges was the 1993 murder charge that cast a dark shadow over his burgeoning career, a trial that would become a turning point in his life, both personally and professionally. The incident that led to Snoop's arrest occurred on August 25, 1993, when a confrontation in Los Angeles escalated into violence. Philip Woldemariam, a member of a rival gang, was shot and killed. Snoop, along with his bodyguard McKinley Lee, was accused of being involved in the shooting. The charge was grave. Snoop faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison, a prospect that threatened to bring his meteoric rise to a sudden, devastating halt. The trial that followed was a media spectacle, with the public and press following every twist and turn. For Snoop, the experience was harrowing. It wasn't just the threat of imprisonment that weighed on him. It was the relentless scrutiny of his life, his music, and his very identity. The trial brought into sharp focus the consequences of the lifestyle he had once embraced, a lifestyle that now seemed to be pulling him down even as his career was soaring. Throughout this ordeal, Snoop found an unwavering source of support in Death Row Records. Suge Knight, the label's formidable head, stood by him, ensuring that the best legal defense was at his disposal. The loyalty of those around him was both a comfort and a reminder of the high stakes involved. The trial became as much a battle for Snoop's freedom as it was for his future in the music industry. The trial took an emotional toll on Snoop. The stress of the courtroom, the uncertainty of the outcome, and the strain on his personal life all began to wear him down. Yet, there was also a sense of clarity that emerged from this period, a realization that his life could not continue on its current trajectory. The possibility of losing everything forced Snoop to reevaluate his choices, to consider the impact of his actions, and to contemplate a different path forward. In February 1996, after nearly 3 years of legal battles, the jury delivered its verdict: not guilty. Snoop was acquitted of all charges, and the weight that had hung over him for so long was finally lifted. The acquittal was a moment of relief, but also one of reflection. Snoop had been given a second chance, and he was determined not to squander it. In the wake of the trial, Snoop's music and public image began to evolve. The youthful bravado that had characterized his early work gave way to a more mature perspective. His lyrics, while still rooted in the realities of the streets, began to reflect a deeper understanding of the consequences of violence and the importance of making better choices. The transformation was subtle, but it marked a shift in Snoop's approach to his art and his life. This period also saw significant changes in Snoop's personal life. In 1997, he married his high school sweetheart, Shanti Taylor, in a ceremony that symbolized his commitment to a new chapter. The couple had already welcomed their first child, Cord, in 1994, and the birth of their second son, Cordell, in 1997, further solidified Snoop's resolve to be a devoted husband and father. Family life became a grounding force for him, offering a sense of stability amidst the chaos of fame and the lingering effects of the trial. The trial had been a crucible, a test of Snoop's strength and character. It forced him to confront his past, to reassess his future, and to make choices that would ensure his survival in a world that seemed intent on bringing him down. The experience left an indelible mark on him, shaping the man and artist he would become in the years to follow. As Snoop emerged from this turbulent period, he carried with him the lessons learned and the scars earned. The world had changed for him, and he had changed with it. The journey ahead would not be without its challenges, but Snoop was no longer the same young man who had burst onto the scene with Doggy Style. He was older, wiser, and more determined than ever to forge a path that would honor both his roots and his responsibilities. Chapter 6: Reinventing Snoop. As the 1990s drew to a close, Snoop Dogg found himself at a crossroads, both personally and professionally. The acquittal in his murder trial had given him a new lease on life, but it also underscored the need for change. The landscape of hip-hop was shifting, and so too was Snoop's place within it. It was a time for reinvention, a time to step away from the shadows of his past and forge a new path forward. Central to this reinvention was Snoop's decision to leave Death Row Records. The label that had launched him to superstardom was now mired in controversy and instability. Suge Knight, once a formidable force in the music industry, had become increasingly embroiled in legal troubles and internal conflicts. The atmosphere at Death Row had turned toxic, and Snoop knew it was time to move on. The tension between Snoop and Suge had been simmering for some time, and by 1998, it was clear that their partnership had run its course. Snoop's departure from Death Row marked a significant turning point in his career. Free from the constraints of the label, he began to explore new opportunities. He found a new home with No Limit Records, the label founded by Master P, a savvy businessman who had built an empire by blending Southern rap with an independent ethos. Signing with No Limit was a bold move, one that signaled Snoop's desire to evolve and experiment with his sound. The first fruit of this new partnership was the album "The Game Is to Be Sold, Not to Be Told," released in 1998. The album marked a departure from the G-Funk sound that had defined Snoop's early work. Instead, it embraced the hard-hitting, brass-heavy production style that was the hallmark of No Limit Records. Songs like "Still a G-Thang" showcased Snoop's ability to adapt to a new sonic environment, while tracks like "Woof" experimented with more aggressive, Southern-inspired beats. "The Game Is to Be Sold, Not to Be Told" was a commercial success, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, but it also signaled a shift in Snoop's artistic direction. No longer content to be pigeonholed as just a West Coast rapper, Snoop began to explore a broader musical palette. Over the next few years, he experimented with different styles, incorporating elements of reggae, R&B, and even pop into his music. Albums like No Limit Top Dog 1999 and The Last Meal 2000 reflected this evolution, showcasing a more versatile and eclectic Snoop. As Snoop's music evolved, so too did his ambitions. He began to establish himself as more than just a rapper. Venturing into acting, Snoop appeared in films like Half-Baked 1998 and The Wash 2001, where his natural charisma and easygoing demeanor translated well to the screen. He also made forays into television, with cameos on popular shows and the launch of his own program, Snoop Dogg's Fatherhood, which offered a glimpse into his life as a family man. Entrepreneurship became another avenue for Snoop's reinvention. In 1999, he founded Doggy Style Records, his own label that allowed him to take control of his music and mentor up-and-coming artists. The label provided a platform for new talent, and Snoop relished the opportunity to give back to the industry that had given him so much. Doggy Style Records became a vehicle for Snoop's vision, a way to shape the future of hip-hop while staying true to his roots. This period of reinvention was not without its challenges. The music industry was changing rapidly, with the rise of digital media and the decline of traditional record sales. Snoop had to navigate these shifts while maintaining his relevance in a crowded and competitive field. But Snoop's adaptability, his willingness to take risks and embrace change, served him well. He continued to grow as an artist and as a cultural icon, proving time and again that he was more than just a rapper. He was a brand, a business, and a force to be reckoned with. By the early 2000s, Snoop Dogg had successfully reinvented himself. He had transitioned from the gangsta rap persona of his early days to a more multifaceted artist, one who could move between different genres and mediums with ease. His influence extended beyond music, shaping fashion, language, and popular culture. Yet, through it all, Snoop remained grounded in his identity, never losing sight of the journey that had brought him to this point. As Snoop looked to the future, he did so with the confidence of a man who had weathered the storms and come out stronger on the other side. The trials and tribulations of the past were behind him, and the path ahead was filled with possibilities. Reinvented and reinvigorated, Snoop Dogg was ready to continue his evolution, one beat, one rhyme, and one venture at a time. Chapter 7: Cultural Icon and Legacy. As the new millennium unfolded, Snoop Dogg's transformation from a West Coast rap prodigy into a global cultural icon became undeniable. What began as a journey rooted in the streets of Long Beach had now evolved into a narrative that transcended music, touching almost every corner of popular culture. Snoop was no longer just a rapper. He was a brand, a personality recognized and revered worldwide, far beyond the confines of the hip-hop industry. A significant aspect of Snoop's rise to cultural prominence was his willingness to collaborate with artists from a wide array of genres. This openness to experimentation allowed him to reach audiences who might never have engaged with his earlier, more hard-edged work. From pop to reggae, Snoop seamlessly blended his laid-back style with diverse musical influences, creating hits that were both innovative and widely accessible. His 2004 album Ran G, Rhythm and Gangsta, the masterpiece, featured the chart-topping single Drop It Like It's Hot, a collaboration with Pharrell Williams that showcased Snoop's ability to stay relevant and fresh in an ever-changing musical landscape. Snoop's foray into reggae, under the moniker Snoop Lion, marked yet another reinvention. The 2013 album Reincarnated reflected his exploration of Rastafarian culture and a more spiritual side of his artistry. Songs like No Guns Allowed hinted at a shift in Snoop's messaging, away from the gangsta narratives of his youth and towards a more conscious and reflective approach. Though the album received mixed reviews, it underscored Snoop's ability to continually redefine himself and engage with new audiences. Beyond music, Snoop became a ubiquitous presence in film and television. His natural charisma made him a sought-after figure in Hollywood, leading to roles in movies like Starsky and Hutch, 2004, and Soul Plane, 2004, where he often played off his own persona with a wink and a nod. But it was his unlikely partnership with domestic diva Martha Stewart that perhaps best exemplified his broad appeal. Their cooking show, Martha and Snoop's Potluck Dinner Party, which premiered in 2016, was a hit, blending humor, cooking, and cultural commentary. The show's success was a testament to Snoop's versatility and his ability to connect with audiences across demographics. Snoop's influence extended beyond entertainment into advocacy and charity work, particularly focused on youth and community development. Aware of the impact his own upbringing had on his life, Snoop became an advocate for young people, founding the Snoop Youth Football League in 2005. The league provided opportunities for inner-city children to engage in sports, offering a positive outlet and a path to success away from the pitfalls of street life. His involvement in charity work also included efforts to support veterans, combat gang violence, and promote animal rights. Snoop's brand continued to evolve, becoming synonymous with a laid-back yet savvy approach to life. Whether it was through his ventures in the cannabis industry with his line of products under the Leafs by Snoop brand, or his appearances in advertising campaigns for major corporations, Snoop managed to remain both relevant and authentic. His business acumen, coupled with his easygoing demeanor, made him a beloved figure not just in music, but in the broader spectrum of pop culture. In many ways, Snoop Dogg's legacy is defined by his ability to adapt and grow while staying true to his core identity. He has navigated the complex world of fame with a rare mix of humor, humility, and resilience. His influence on popular culture is undeniable, from the slang he popularized to the fashion trends he helped create. As an artist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Snoop has left an indelible mark on the world, a mark that continues to expand as he explores new ventures and collaborations. As he looks back on a career that has spanned decades, Snoop can see a journey that has taken him from the streets of Long Beach to the heights of global fame. His story is one of reinvention, of overcoming adversity, and of using his platform to effect positive change. Snoop Dogg has become more than just a musician. He is a cultural icon, a living legend whose legacy will continue to inspire and influence for generations to come. Chapter 8: The Evolution of the Dogfather. As Snoop Dogg enters the later stages of his career, the title of Dogfather seems more fitting than ever. Reflecting on a journey that has spanned more than 3 decades, Snoop stands as a towering figure in the hip-hop industry, a genre he helped shape and redefine. His influence has been profound, his impact undeniable, and his legacy secured. But more than just a pioneer of West Coast rap, Snoop has grown into a multifaceted icon, a mentor, and a symbol of resilience and reinvention. Throughout his career, Snoop has maintained a delicate balance between his gangsta roots and his evolving roles as a family man and businessman. The tension between these identities has been a defining aspect of his journey. The world first came to know Snoop as the smooth-talking, laid-back rapper who embodied the ethos of West Coast gangsta rap. His early music, filled with tales of street life, violence, and survival, was a raw and unfiltered reflection of the environment that shaped him. Yet, as the years passed, Snoop began to reveal different facets of his character, facets that showed him as not just a product of his circumstances, but as a man capable of growth, transformation, and wisdom. One of the most significant aspects of Snoop's evolution has been his role as a mentor to the younger generations of rappers. Having weathered the storms of fame, legal troubles, and the pressures of the music industry, Snoop has become a guiding figure for those who have followed in his footsteps. He has used his platform to uplift emerging artists, offering them not just advice, but also opportunities through his label, Doggy Style Records, and various collaborations. Snoop's mentorship goes beyond music. It's about passing on the lessons he's learned, both in the studio and in life, to ensure that the next generation is better equipped to navigate the complexities of the industry. Despite his growth, Snoop has never fully abandoned the persona that first brought him fame. The gangsta image remains an integral part of his brand, an image that is now blended with the persona of a seasoned veteran, a family man, and a savvy entrepreneur. Snoop's ability to straddle these worlds is a testament to his adaptability and understanding of what his audience expects, while still allowing himself the space to evolve as an individual. His public persona is as much about the past as it is about the present, a reminder of where he's come from and how far he's traveled. As he reflects on his legacy, Snoop's perspective is one of gratitude and pride. He acknowledges the challenges and mistakes of his past, but views them as essential parts of his story. Snoop wants to be remembered not just as a rapper, but as someone who transcended the limitations of his origins to become a global cultural force. His journey from the streets of Long Beach to the heights of stardom is a narrative of perseverance, reinvention, and the power of music to transform lives. Snoop's influence extends beyond the confines of the music industry. He has become a cultural touchstone, a figure whose name is synonymous with not just hip-hop, but a particular kind of cool, a blend of swagger, humor, and wisdom. Whether through his music, his acting, his ventures in the cannabis industry, or his philanthropic efforts, Snoop has left a lasting imprint on the world. He has shown that it is possible to evolve without losing authenticity, to grow without forgetting your roots. In the final analysis, the man behind the music is one of contradictions and complexities. Snoop Dogg is at once the embodiment of the West Coast gangsta rap scene and a symbol of its evolution into something much broader and more inclusive. He is a reminder of the power of reinvention and the importance of staying true to oneself, even as the world around you changes. As Snoop continues to explore new avenues and push boundaries, his legacy is assured, not just as a pioneer of hip-hop, but as an enduring cultural icon whose influence will be felt for generations to come. The story of Snoop Dogg is one of transformation, resilience, and the pursuit of greatness. From his beginnings in Long Beach to his emergence as a global star, Snoop's journey is a testament to the possibilities that arise when talent meets opportunity and when an artist refuses to be confined by the expectations of others. In the world of music and beyond, Snoop Dogg's name will forever be associated with innovation, inspiration, and the evolution of an art form that has touched millions of lives.
Thank you for joining me tonight on History Before Bed. I hope you found our journey through the past both intriguing and restful. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what story you'd like to hear next. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next episode. Good night.